What happens when a music legend, a woman whose voice has shaped an era of music, sits down for what should be a celebration of her amazing journey, only to find her authenticity and struggles suddenly questioned on live TV? Imagine spending decades perfecting your craft, creating songs that define generations, and then being forced to defend your legacy in front of an audience. What you're about to hear is one of the unforgettable fights ever seen on daytime TV. This is the moment when Chaka Khan, the singer behind hits like "I'm Every Woman" and "Ain't Nobody," reminded everyone that her voice comes from something, a spirit that refuses to be silenced. The studio grew quiet. The audience held their breath. One host was about to learn a lesson the hard way. Some legends simply do not tolerate disrespect from someone who has never walked in their shoes. Before we dive into this story, make sure to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments, because by the time this story ends, you'll definitely have something to say. The morning had started with excitement inside the View studio. A true icon was coming to the show. Chaka Khan was scheduled to appear. The anticipation could be felt everywhere, from producers organizing the segment to the makeup artists working backstage. At 71 years old, Chaka was far more than another guest. She was a living legend. For than 5 decades, her voice had echoed across the music world, blending funk, soul, R&B, and pop, while influencing many artists along the way. Recently, she had finally received one of music's highest honors, induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. For fans and critics alike, it was a recognition that had been long overdue. When Chaka arrived at the studio, she carried the regal presence that fans had admired for years. Her signature wild curls framed her face beautifully. There was an unmistakable aura around her, the kind of presence that fills a room the moment someone walks in. Despite the fame and accolades, Chaka greeted the production crew with warmth and kindness. She took a moment to acknowledge the staff members working behind the scenes, offering genuine compliments and encouragement. Because she remembered something many stars forget. She remembered what it felt like to be overlooked, to be underestimated. That humility had always been a part of who Chaka Khan truly was. Back in the room, her team briefly reviewed the usual talking points: her Hall of Fame induction, her upcoming music, and her continuing tour schedule. Chaka listened politely, though her attention drifted. All she had been doing interviews for nearly 50 years. Talk shows were territory. What interested her more was the atmosphere around her, the energy of the studio, the people moving quickly through the hallways, the excitement in the air. There was something no one backstage realized. While everyone else was preparing to celebrate a legend, one host had arrived that morning with a different attitude. Soon that difference would change everything. When the cameras rolled, the studio lights glowed warmly as Chaka took her seat at the round table. She greeted each host with warmth, her radiant smile lighting up the entire set. The audience responded immediately. A standing ovation continued for nearly 2 full minutes. Chaka accepted it gratefully, the kind of grace that comes from someone who understands that fame is not a right but a blessing. Then Whoopi Goldberg leaned forward to begin the segment, her voice filled with admiration. "Our next guest is a living legend," she said. 10 Grammy Awards, songs that have become part of America's musical story, and a voice that has inspired generations. Please welcome the Chaka Khan. The applause swelled again as Chaka settled into her chair with effortless elegance. "Thank you much, babies," she said warmly. "What a beautiful welcome. I feel the love in this room. I appreciate every one of you." The conversation began smoothly. Sarah Haynes asked about Chaka's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Chaka spoke openly about what the recognition meant to her after so many years of waiting. She reflected on the artists who inspired her. She talked about growing up on Chicago's South Side. She described the long journey that carried her from neighborhood stages to worldwide recognition. "You know, when I started singing with Rufus in the 70s, Chaka said, her voice carrying the warmth that made her famous, no one told us we were making history." She smiled gently. "We were kids from Chicago trying to make music that felt real, music that came straight from the soul." There was a pause. We didn't have the internet telling us what was trending or what was supposed to be popular. The audience listened closely as she spoke, clearly captivated by her honesty. Everything about the interview seemed relaxed, respectful, and celebratory. Just as the conversation appeared to be flowing perfectly, something unexpected was about to shift the entire mood in the room. One comment, one moment. Suddenly, the celebration would turn into a confrontation no one in that studio would ever forget. Because what happened next would prove something important. Chaka Khan may be humble. She never forgets her worth. Chaka Khan was talking about the days when musicians did not have algorithms telling them what music to make. "We just had our instruments, our voices, and the emotions we put into every note," Chaka Khan said. She stopped for a moment to let that sink in. The audience was completely quiet, listening to every word Chaka Khan said. Then Chaka Khan continued, "Now 50 years later, I am standing here with the artists who inspired me when I was growing up, the ones who made music that shaped my life. It is really overwhelming." The audience was still very quiet listening to Chaka Khan. This was the Chaka Khan they came to see. A legend who was still humble after all her big achievements. A woman who was grateful after going through a lot of hard times. An artist who still loved music just as much as she did when she started her career. For a minute, everything felt just right. It was like a celebration for a famous person. Then something changed. Joy Behar leaned forward in her chair and the mood in the room changed away. Her voice was sharp. The other hosts looked at each other uncomfortably. Joy Behar said, "Chaka, you talk about making history and being recognized. But let us be honest, your career has not been easy, has it?" There was a pause before she continued. "You had problems with drugs. You went to rehab. There were times when you were not in the spotlight. Do you think this Hall of Fame thing is more about people remembering the days than about what you actually did?" The question was like a big explosion in the room. The audience was completely silent. Even the other hosts looked surprised by how confrontational the moment felt. Chaka Khan's face changed a little. Her voice was still calm. "Joy, I have never hidden from my past," Chaka Khan said. "I have always been honest about my struggles with addiction." She looked directly at Joy Behar. "Those struggles do not define my career. What defines my career is the music I made, the people I connected with, and the artists who were inspired by what I did." She stopped for a moment before finishing her thought. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame does not choose people because of nostalgia. They do it because of the impact they had. For a moment, it seemed like the conversation might move on. Joy Behar was not finished. "Well, that is the thing," Joy Behar said. "Your biggest hits were a time ago. I'm Every Woman. Ain't Nobody. I Feel For You." She tilted her head a little. "That was 40 or 50 years ago. What have you done recently that justifies all this celebration?" The audience started to feel uncomfortable. Some people moved in their seats. At the table, Sunny Hostin looked like she was about to jump at any moment. Chaka Khan slowly repeated the question. "What have I done lately?" Her voice was quieter now. It was still very intense. "I have been touring the world," Chaka Khan said. "I have been selling out venues on every continent. I have been making music that people of all ages love. I have been helping young artists who want to learn from someone who has been through it all." Then she added one thing. "I have been staying alive, Joy. Staying sober. Staying relevant." She looked at Joy Behar. At 71 years old in this business, that is an accomplishment by itself. The tension in the room had not gone away. In fact, it was getting stronger. Joy Behar leaned forward again, pushing the issue further. "Well, let us talk about I'm Every Woman," Joy Behar said. "That song became more famous when Whitney Houston recorded it." She stopped for a moment. "Some people might say Whitney's version is the one people really remember, that she took your song and made it better." Her words hung in the air. "How does it feel to be overshadowed by someone who came after you?" When Joy Behar mentioned Whitney Houston, something changed in Chaka Khan's face. Her eyes showed an emotion. "Whitney Houston was my sister," Chaka Khan said quietly. "I loved her. I still love her." Her voice was very sincere. Yes, her version of that song was beautiful. She nodded thoughtfully before continuing. "Let me tell you something about that song, Joy. I recorded I'm Every Woman in 1978. It became a song for women during a time when women really needed it. Whitney recorded her version 15 years later. What she did was introduce that song to a whole new generation." Chaka Khan leaned forward a little, filling the room with her presence. "That is not being overshadowed," Chaka Khan said firmly. "That is called having a legacy." Then she added something more powerful. Before she passed away, Whitney always gave me credit for that song. She always honored where it came from. She never tried to erase me." Chaka Khan's eyes stayed locked on Joy Behar. "That is what real artists do," Chaka Khan continued. "They respect each other. They lift each other up." There was a silence. Then Chaka Khan said one thing, calm and clear. "Maybe that is something you do not fully understand because you have never made anything that lasted." The response cut through the room with precision. Suddenly, the whole atmosphere in the studio had changed. Joy's face got a little tighter. You could see a faint red color spreading across it. She still did not back down. "I am just asking questions that some people might already be thinking," Joy said. "You have had a lot of times in your life, Chaka Khan. The marriages, the fights with people, the years when drugs clearly affected your performances on stage." Chaka Khan sat perfectly still for a moment. Then she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of 50 years of life. Years filled with success, struggle, survival, and truth. Drama? Chaka Khan repeated slowly. You want to talk about drama, Joy? Chaka Khan leaned forward a little. Let me tell you what drama really is, Chaka Khan said. Drama is growing up black and female in America during the 1960s, Chaka Khan said. Drama is fighting your way into the music industry that never wanted you there. An industry that did not believe a skinned girl from Chicago could ever become a star, Chaka Khan said. The audience was still listening to Chaka Khan. Drama is being told your voice is strong, too raw, too powerful for mainstream audiences, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan's voice grew stronger, not angry, deeper, sharpened by decades of experience. Drama is watching people you love die from the disease that's trying to destroy you, and somehow finding the strength to get clean anyway, Chaka Khan said. Drama is losing people you care about, and still walking onto that stage night after night singing songs about love, hope, and survival, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan paused for a moment. That's my drama, Joy, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan continued, and I have lived every moment of it out loud, without apologies and without hiding behind some fake version of myself. The studio had gone completely silent, Chaka Khan said. The audience was not just watching an interview anymore. They were witnessing something true. A woman refusing to let her life be reduced to headlines, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan said, You asked if I wish I had done things differently. Chaka Khan said, Let me tell you something. Chaka Khan said, Every mistake I made, every fall I took, every moment I struggled, all of it went into the music, Chaka Khan said. All of it became part of the voice you hear on those records. Chaka Khan placed a hand lightly against her chest. Chaka Khan said, Chaka Khan's eyes locked forward, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan said, You do not get this power without the pain that shaped it. Chaka Khan said, You do not get the joy unless you have lived through the sorrow. Chaka Khan shook her head slightly. Chaka Khan said, That's what real music is. Joy, Chaka Khan said, not perfection. Chaka Khan said, Authenticity. For a moment, Joy seemed determined to pull the conversation back under control. Chaka Khan said, I understand what you are saying, Joy replied. Joy said, Surely, you can see how those struggles have affected your reputation. Joy continued carefully, Chaka Khan said. Joy said, There are people who remember the performances, the unpredictable moments, the years when your struggles played out publicly. Joy raised her eyebrows slightly, Chaka Khan said. Joy said, Do you not think that overshadows your achievements? Chaka Khan let out a laugh, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan said, It was not a laugh. Chaka Khan said, It was the kind of laugh that comes from someone who has heard this kind of criticism times before. Chaka Khan said, Overshadowed my achievements? Chaka Khan said, Baby, I have 10 Grammy Awards. Chaka Khan held up her fingers, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan said, 10. Chaka Khan said, I have sold millions of records over the world. Chaka Khan said, I have influenced artists from Beyonce to Adele to Mary J. Blige. Chaka Khan's voice grew stronger with every sentence Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan said, Every female R&B singer performing today owes something, directly or indirectly, to the groundwork we laid in the 70s and 80s. Chaka Khan leaned back slightly. Chaka Khan said, That's not something that gets overshadowed. Chaka Khan said, That's a legacy. Chaka Khan said, A legacy that will outlive both of us. Then suddenly, Chaka Khan stood up. Chaka Khan said, The movement immediately captured everyone's attention. Chaka Khan said, At 71, Chaka Khan's presence filled the entire studio with undeniable authority. Chaka Khan looked directly at Joy. Chaka Khan said, You want to know what I really think this is about? Chaka Khan said, I think you do not understand artists. Chaka Khan said, I think you do not understand what it takes to stand on a stage and bare your soul to strangers. Night after night, year after year, decade after decade, Chaka Khan's voice now carried the intensity that had earned her the title Queen of Funk, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan said, I think you look at someone like me and you see the struggles, the imperfections, the humanity behind the legend. Chaka Khan paused for a moment. Chaka Khan said, That makes you uncomfortable. Chaka Khan spoke with clarity. Chaka Khan said, Yes, I struggled with addiction. Chaka Khan said, Yes, I went to rehab. Chaka Khan said, Yes, I did the work and got clean. Chaka Khan said, Yes, I have had relationships that did not last. Chaka Khan said, I have had my heart broken. Chaka Khan said, I have made mistakes in love. Chaka Khan said, Yes, I have had conflicts in this industry because I refused to stay quiet when people expected me to just smile and be grateful. Chaka Khan's voice rose slightly. Chaka Khan said, Chaka Khan said, but through all of it, I kept singing. Chaka Khan said, I kept creating. Chaka Khan said, and I kept showing up. Chaka Khan pointed directly toward Joy. Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan's finger was steady, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan's gaze was unwavering, Chaka Khan said. Chaka Khan said, and what about you, Joy? Chaka Khan said, you sit at this table every day judging people who actually go out into the world and do something. You comment on lives you've never lived, Chaka said, her voice steady but powerful. You critique art you've never made. You analyze struggles you've never faced. She paused, letting her words sink in. When someone like me sits across from you, someone who's lived a full, messy life, all you can think to do is try to tear them down. Her statement hit hard. Joy opened her mouth to respond. Chaka gently raised her hand. She wasn't done yet. Let me tell you something about I'm Every Woman, she said. That song wasn't a title, it was a statement. Her voice was strong, like decades of experience. I'm every woman because I've lived through everything. I've been poor and wealthy. I've been forgotten. I've known addiction and sobriety. I've faced loneliness. She put a hand on her heart. Through all of it, I've never stopped being who I am. Then she turned to the audience. Her tone softened, becoming more personal. To every woman watching who's been made to feel ashamed of her struggles, to every woman who's been told her past disqualifies her, to anyone who's been reduced to their moment by people who don't understand what they've survived. She paused. I want you to remember something. Your struggles aren't your shame. They're your strength. Every time you fell, you learned to stand up. Every heartbreak helped you love better. Every mistake taught you something that perfection couldn't. She turned back to Joy. Her expression was a mix of disappointment and compassion. I've been singing for 50 years. I've been told I was too much or not enough. I've been praised, criticized, and written off times than I can count. She shook her head. Through all of it, I learned something important. People who try to bring you down are often running from their stuff. They need you to be smaller so they don't have to face themselves. Chaka straightened up with dignity. I came here to celebrate being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Her voice was calm but firm. Instead, I've spent 15 minutes defending my life to someone who thinks living a life is something to be ashamed of. She lifted her chin. Well, I'm not ashamed. I'm proud. Proud of every song I've sung. Proud of every stage I've stood on. Proud of every tear I've cried. Every moment I survived. She adjusted her outfit. Do you know the difference between you and me, Joy? There was a pause. When I leave this studio, I'm going to sing for thousands of people who love me. Her eyes shone with conviction. People who grew up with my music. People who fell in love to my songs. People who cried. Found pieces of their lives in my voice. That's my legacy. That's what I built with my life. Her voice grew quieter but more powerful. So let me ask you something. What will you leave behind, Joy? What will people remember when you're gone? The jokes you made at someone's expense? The sharp questions meant to embarrass people? The feeling of being better than someone who never took risks? The studio was silent. Joy sat frozen, unprepared for the conversation. Chaka turned to the audience. I want to thank everyone who supported my music. You're the reason I'm still here. You're the reason I got clean. You're the reason I keep singing. She smiled softly. I do it for you. I do it for the little girl from Chicago who wanted to be heard. She put a hand on her heart. She made it. We made it. No one can take that away. She walked toward the edge of the stage, then stopped. She looked back. Oh, one more thing. Through the Fire. That song was about survival. Her voice was quiet but strong. I've been through the fire, Joy, more than once. I'm still here, still singing, still living my truth. Maybe one day you'll get what that means, Chaka said calmly. Maybe one day you'll find the courage to face your problems, instead of watching others struggle while you sit comfortably. With that, Chaka Khan turned and walked off the stage. Her posture was still strong, her presence commanding, just like it had been throughout her career. For a moment, the room was quiet. Then it happened. The audience started cheering. Applause filled the studio, getting louder and louder until everyone was standing. A standing ovation filled the room, meant for the woman who had just shown everyone what true strength looks like. At the table, the remaining hosts sat in silence. Whoopi looked unhappy, not surprised. Sarah Haynes looked like she was about to cry, clearly moved by what had happened. Joy Behar stayed seated, looking smaller than she had at the start of the interview, as if she had just learned a hard lesson about the difference between asking tough questions and being cruel. What had started as a promotional appearance had turned into something much more powerful. A woman who had spent 50 years singing about being strong, surviving, and being resilient had just shown those qualities live on TV. In doing so, she reminded everyone watching of something important. A life fully lived with all its struggles, triumphs, and imperfections is more meaningful than a life spent judging others from the sidelines. The story didn't end there, because the aftermath of that interview would have an impact on the entertainment world for weeks. Clips of Chaka's powerful response quickly spread on media, getting millions of views as viewers replayed the moment again and again. Her words resonated. Her message struck a chord. Almost overnight, her music started surging again. Streaming numbers soared as a generation discovered the artist behind the legendary voice and the story behind the songs. Amid all the discussion, a deeper question started to emerge. Why are we so quick to judge people for the struggles that made them who they are? Why do we criticize the pain, the mistakes, and the battles, when those very things often create the strength we admire? Perhaps the meaningful takeaway from that moment wasn't the confrontation itself. It was what it revealed about legacy. Because true legends don't build their legacy overnight. They build it through decades of work, through obstacles overcome, through music and art that touches millions of lives. Chaka Khan had built hers that way. When that legacy was challenged by someone who had never created anything close to it, she defended it with the same fire that had always been in her voice. Because that's what strong women do. They don't just wear the crown. They earn it again and again through every struggle, every triumph, and every moment of perseverance. For those who grew up listening to I'm Every Woman and Ain't Nobody. For those who found strength in Through the Fire during their moments. For those who danced to I Feel For You during life's happiest celebrations. Watching Chaka Khan stand tall in that moment felt really satisfying. She wasn't just defending her career. She was defending the truth that a meaningful life includes mistakes, setbacks, heartbreak, and the courage to keep going. Once again, she proved something the world has known for decades. The voice that moved millions is backed by a spirit that refuses to be diminished by anyone. Now the question is, for you, what did you think about this confrontation? Was Joy Behar simply doing her job? Did she cross the line? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe for more powerful moments and stories that will leave you absolutely speechless.